Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to the movie review, aka After I Saw. This time it's going to be on the Odyssey. This is one of the most highly anticipated films of the year, not just for me, but for almost everybody else. And this film, we follow Odysseus, played by Matt Damon, as he is on a journey to get home to his family, while, of course, going through so much throughout that journey, where meanwhile, of course, his son, played by Tom Holland, is up next to become the next heir for the throne, while, of course, there are some family situations when it comes to not accepting the fact that he is gone. But yeah, I feel like, I don't really need to get into everything because it's a film that's very easy to follow. So, yeah, what can I say about Christopher Nolan? He is a master in filmmaking. And I feel like when it comes to trusting people, like big-name directors to continue to create films, I feel like Christopher Nolan is definitely up there when it comes to, people that still do generally care about filmmaking. Because sure, he might have made the Dark Knight trilogy, which is still fantastic, but that's like the only franchise he has ever really made. Everything else he has done something different with. He's done a biopic, he's done a very immersive, dreamlike film, or the dude simply has talent. So yeah, and with Oppenheimer being a huge hit, becoming one of the highest grossing biopics of all time, and also one of the highest grossing R-rated films, yeah, it's, I feel like it's gotten to the point where anything this man does, people will instantly go see. And I mean that as a genuine compliment, because this is simply another epic, triumphant return to form for the dude, even though he does usually make films every 3 years or so. But I feel like, with movies like this, he generally shows that he has a deep passion for filmmaking, as this film was entirely shot with IMAX film cameras. I'm just going to adjust my hat because it's a little bit, yeah. Now, I'm not really going to compare this much to Homer's Odyssey, because I never really got into that. Like, I don't really... Again, I say this a lot in my videos, but with films like this, I don't really like to compare it to what the source material is based off of, because I'm usually judging movies as films rather than full-on adaptations. And no, Moana doesn't count because, well, everybody's going to compare that to the original. But I need to wash the bad taste of that out of my mouth and just talk about this, because there is a lot to this movie that I feel like is easily worth praising. First off, the cast. It is stacked like, oh my god. Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Charlize Theron, Lupita Nyong'o. I know I'm missing a few, but oh my... They went all out with this cast. And that might make a few people concerned. Maybe it's just, going to bring in all these big name actors, to get more attention, like not really having any of the people fit in the roles that they are trying to fit into. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding some of the casting choices, specifically with Lupita Nyong'o, but I just want a good movie. And if they're giving me a good movie, then that's all I really care about, not a good adaptation, because, again, movies like this were made for the big screen to simply just watch and enjoy and, invest into, while also, appreciating it as a film. So that's why I don't really care. And hey, everybody is phenomenal, and they don't really have a whole lot of screen time. Like, I really feel like they tried balancing the screen time a little bit, which isn't really a problem. Like, I feel like because of that, there's a lot of, character introductions, but giving you just enough, to connect from time to time, because, well, yeah, it's definitely epic. It can also be very deep with the emotion, and I feel like it's something that we're all going to connect to, because, of course, this is a family situation type film, while also being a very epic, like, story-driven film that really has you connected throughout its nearly 3-hour runtime. And I saw this in a packed theater, and I mean a packed theater. Like, there were groups, so many of them were coming in like crazy, and I saw it in IMAX too, because I feel like IMAX is an absolute must for this film. I feel like if you don't see this movie in IMAX, you're not getting the full experience, or 70 millimeter, or this movie just simply brought a smile to my face the entire time. And when it comes to big budget filmmaking, they often just don't really care because they just like to throw so much money in your face saying, oh, we don't care, regardless what happens, we're going to put this on the big screen because we know people are going to see it. No, I'm not even going to, I was going to mention Moana, but I just need to forget about that. But yeah, last time I'm bringing that movie up. But yeah, also with this being a film that's R-rated, you expect, a lot more action, and there generally is. Now, this isn't on like the same levels as something like Gladiator or Braveheart when it comes to those types of action sequences. It's not even that bloody, really. I mean, they do try keeping the blood as brief as possible, but I feel like it's more of a test because, of course, the last film he made was R-rated. But I feel like, with these two movies being R-rated now, I feel like, Christopher Nolan can generally trust the audience, as if, can the audience still be as strong if he's making films for a much more adult audience? And I feel like that's the case here because so many people came in to see the screening that I went to. It was at night, and yeah, it's already like people are already going to see it because generally these are the types of movies that I love seeing on the big screen. These are the types of films that I feel like were made for the big screen. And even when you watch them at home, you can still have a great experience at home. Just not right now because it's in theaters right now. But if you watch it at home, buy the Blu-ray, buy the 4K, and just watch it on the sharpest TV that you can. Because if you watch it on streaming, yeah, buffering and all that, it would just be very disrespectful. And I mean that as a genuine compliment because there was just so much about this movie that I was generally impressed by. Like, from the scope of the movie, and sure, there is CGI, where in his last film there was not a whole lot of CGI whatsoever. In fact, there wasn't any. Even when it comes to the CGI, it isn't, like, distracting, but I feel like ultimately when it comes to the CGI, it's still very, like, minimal at best, as the production design and the sets, like, when they're on the ocean, I generally was watching a film where they were actually on the ocean because, yeah, there was just so much passion put into this project. Like, when it comes to the scopes and the landscape, it was all super spot on, especially when the music is added in. It was just all around a delightful treat from beginning to end, and I was never bored by this movie. I never checked my watch. And that's something that's been happening with me a lot. I haven't checked my watch during a movie in like a couple months, but I feel like with this movie, it was easy for me to get into. Now, without going into any spoilers, it opens up in a way where it's just like, okay, we don't need to introduce everyone, like every single character in the film, but I don't really feel like that's much of a problem because you should know exactly what you're getting into with a film like this. And while we're on the subject on beginning to end, the conclusion, it is one of the most satisfying conclusions that Christopher Nolan has ever put into his film. It's emotional, it's epic, and it's a sequence that I feel like will stick with you long after the credits roll. And I don't think this is going to be like a divisive take or anything. I generally do feel like, this is going to be a conclusion that everybody can be all like, yep, it ended beautifully. Because really though, even when it comes to the conclusion and the beginning, every single part manages to have a purpose. And I haven't even gotten into some of my favorite sequences, which again, not going to go too deep into spoilers, but some of my favorite sequences kind of feel reminiscent of a horror film. And Nolan has talked about the fact that he would love to do a horror film, and after watching this movie, I could see him making a damn good horror film. Because there are some sequences that are just, I mean, of course, there's one with a Cyclops, and there's another one where I'm not even joking, kind of reminded me of a body horror film. Yeah, this movie was just so unpredictable. I had absolutely no idea what was coming next, and yeah, the money was certainly on the screen, and rather than being style over substance, it's just enough style while adding in a whole lot of substance. Again, it's a story that's very easy to follow. It's easy to know what exactly the characters' motives are. I mean, Anne Hathaway, who plays the mother, wants her husband back. She wants peace back, and Robert Pattinson is menacing. But yeah, this was just simply a film, while of course a lot of independent filmmakers more than deserve their spotlight. When it comes to big budget films, films like this are generally how you do it right. Because while of course this is an adaptation, it's still something that, feels like, we can enjoy on the big screen without feeling like we have to do our homework on any of the previous movies that happened before. Because while technically people will compare this to Homer's Odyssey, and sure, some people might say it's unfaithful, but I don't know because I never got into it. But I can generally say without a doubt, as a film, this was a spectacle to behold. I mean, the look of the film, the performances, the balance with not just its effects, but also its cast. And I feel like it manages to give you something that's both very powerful and very epic at the same time. And in the end, guys, the Odyssey was an absolute sight to behold. It's easily contender for Film of the Year. I mean, with how big Oppenheimer was, after the success of that film, sweeping away at the Oscars and the box office, even though Barbie made a lot more money, but that didn't really matter. Both movies practically saved the box office. I feel like it's safe to say that Nolan definitely has a style that, he just hasn't lost his touch. He generally cares about filmmaking. He started off small, then managed to grow a lot more with his career, from Batman to Inception to Oppenheimer, of course. And I can generally say without a doubt, Christopher Nolan has done it again. And I was a little bit nervous at first because I didn't want to get my hopes too high because of how good Oppenheimer was. That was my favorite film to come out in 2023. But after watching this movie, I can say that Nolan is simply a director to trust when it comes to filming in general. So what can I say? It's a cliche thing to say at this point, but it has to be said like everybody else is saying. The Odyssey is absolute cinema. So glad I can finally give it that rating because I had my doubts at first. I expected maybe a 4.5 because, again, didn't want to get my hopes too high. But I feel like this rightfully earned its badge in my point of view. I didn't even mention how quick the movie was. Like when in terms of the editing, it's quick. Like nothing goes by too long. So go out and see this one. You will thank me later. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or maybe Blue Sky. Links are in the description. And I'll see you guys later. Word out.